You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
All right, folks, did a little more research today on marijuana legalization. I was kind of curious as to how many chances, I guess I should say, have there been to make that first domino fall? We all kind of recognize that marijuana prohibition is not going to end at a federal level. It's not going to just happen through a magical act of Congress. I mean, I guess maybe it could, but it's just doubtful. More likely that the end of prohibition of marijuana is going to be like the end of prohibition of alcohol. It'll happen state by state. And that means some state has to be the first one to take that move, which is the first state to actually legalize marijuana. Now, I know there's a lot of debate among some people here in the marijuana community as to what legalization really means. I've come up with a pretty simple definition for myself. If there's a knock on my door at 1 a.m. and I go downstairs in my robe smoking a joint and there's a police officer standing there, and at the end of our conversation I get to go back to bed with my joint, marijuana's legal. Okay, we can work out the rest of the details of where am I going to buy it, where am I going to grow it, whatever. If I can talk to a cop with a joint in my hand, marijuana's legal. So this year, of course, we have 2 states that are vying to be that first state to topple the domino. We got Washington State with I-502, the initiative that would legalize an ounce and the sales, retail sales and wholesale, cultivation, but wouldn't have home grow, and controversially has that 5 nanogram per milliliter DUID provision. And we've got Colorado's regulate marijuana like alcohol, which would legalize an ounce of possession, 6 plants, and all your harvest from those 6 plants at the grow site, as well as the retail sales and wholesale commercial cultivation. Neither of these initiatives would affect medical marijuana. Both of them state that, in their language that, hey, nothing about this changes medical. You'll still have medical, but it just legalizes for the healthy people. So with respect to that, I wanted to point out a couple of things. Number one, we've got a poll up on Washington's I-502. The question is, Washington's I-502 legalizes an ounce but creates a 5 nanogram per milliliter per se DUID. Would you vote for it? Now, when I first put this up, it was about 67% yes in favor. And then I felt the votes come in from the I-502 opponents that drove it down to as low as 62% on the Stash blog. Now with 774 votes in, it is back up to above 70%. It's at 70% right now in favor of 502 with 30% opposed. Of course, this is a completely unscientific self-selected poll, so make of it what you will, which is, take it with a salt lick, not just a grain of salt. But still, if you'd like to participate in the poll, it's up at our blog at stash.normal.org. Now, with respect to this legalization and the chances that we get, I did some research today, and I found that in all of the history of the 40-plus years of marijuana prohibition, and more specifically the war on drugs as declared by Richard Nixon. Of course, marijuana prohibition goes farther back than that. But in the 40-plus years of Nixon's war on drugs, there have been 10 times where marijuana legalization has made the statewide ballot. 10 times that this has happened. And we have to understand that in America, there are only 23 states that you have the ability to petition, where you can put together a petition to get something on the ballot that's a statewide initiative. Some of them can be constitutional amendments. Some of them can only be statutes. But regardless, the people can only put out a petition in 23 states. And Mississippi just got that right back in 1992. So before 92, there were only 22 states where you could put out initiatives. Of those 23 states, only 6 western states, Alaska, California, Colorado, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington, have ever managed to succeed at placing a legalization initiative before the state's voters. Those 6 states account for just 10 successful tries out of a potential 494 opportunities to place legalization on the ballot. Now, I've got the tables up at the blog at stash.normal.org, but basically I outline all the states that could have put legalization on the ballot, 22 of them up until 1992, 23 of them after that, and how many actually did put marijuana legalization on the ballot. And again, only 10 times out of 494 attempts. So your chance of getting true legalization on the ballot next time, not always that guaranteed. In fact, the chances are generally against it. If you have a chance to vote on legalization, it's best that you probably do so. Twice, California's voted on legalization. In 1972, Prop 19 attempted to legalize personal use and cultivation without any sort of well-defined limits for all adults 18 and older, and it generated 33.5% support. 28 years later, they got their second chance, which was also called Prop 19, and it attempted to legalize 1 ounce of marijuana and a 25-square-foot personal garden for all adults 21 and older. It generated the greatest support yet at 46.5%. 2 other states have had 2 shots at marijuana legalization. Alaska tried it for 18 and older in 2000 and got about 41%. Tried personal use for 21 and older 4 years later, got about 44%. Nevada tried 3-ounce legalization for 21 and older in 2002 and got about 39%. Then 4 years later, lowered it to 1 ounce and got 44%. Oregon tried to legalize for 18 and older in 1986 and got the lowest vote total, 24% back then. 12 congressional elections later, many attempts have been made to get marijuana legalization on the Oregon ballot, and all have failed. So, Washington State has never had marijuana legalization on the ballot until this year. Colorado had legalization on the ballot this year, and they had a failed attempt in 2006 that generated 41% support. So if it is not crystal clear my opinion on this, let me just make it even more crystal. If you get a chance and you're lucky enough to live in a state, 6 out of 23 states that have initiatives that have ever tried it, 6 out of 50 states that have any chance of putting this before the voters, and you get that chance to vote for legalization, you gotta take it. You gotta take that shot. The chance of you getting it on the ballot again is not guaranteed. And when billionaires funding these things mount loss after loss, they tend to look elsewhere as to where they're going to spend their money for legalization. And the legalization attempts get more and more restrictive. 3 ounces becomes 1 ounce. Cultivation at home becomes no home cultivation. We get new DUID provisions. Take the shot now. Get your rights. We'll fix the rest later.
This is NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana.
We'll talk more about this in Hour 2 here at Toker Talk Radio. You can call in at 971-533-7111. For Brian Blank, 37111. For Brian Blank, Wiz Khalifa, Ganja John, and Cannabis Carry, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
You're listening to the NORML Network.